The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and something Eleanor Thompson couldn't name. Maybe regret, maybe death. Her lungs burned with each shallow breath, the cancer eating through them like rust through old metal. Through the window, Seattle's gray sky pressed down on the world, heavy and indifferent. She was 73 years old. After everything she'd accomplished, everything she'd sacrificed for, this was how it ended, alone in a room where even the flowers on the nightstand were wilting. Then she heard it. Footsteps. Small, light. A child's footsteps. Eleanor turned her head, the simple movement sending lightning bolts of pain through her chest, and saw him, a boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old, with eyes that held centuries of wisdom. He wore a simple gray hoodie, but there was something about him that didn't belong in this sterile room. A warmth, a light that had nothing to do with the fluorescent bulbs overhead. "Are you afraid?" the boy asked, his voice soft as winter snow. Eleanor tried to laugh, but it came out as a wheeze. "Afraid? No, sweetheart. I've faced boardrooms full of men who wanted to destroy me. Death doesn't scare me." She paused, studying him. "Who are you? Where are your parents?" The boy smiled with a kindness that made Eleanor's throat tighten. "I'm here for you, Eleanor, for your last moment, to listen." And somehow, impossibly, Eleanor knew this wasn't an ordinary child. This was something else, someone else. And maybe, just maybe, she would finally get the chance to say the words that had been choking her for 42 years. Have you ever made a choice that saved your career but destroyed your soul? Leave a comment if you've ever had to choose between success and the people you love. And subscribe, because this story might change how you see the cost of ambition. "What's your name?" Eleanor whispered, her voice barely audible over the beeping monitors. "You can call me Daniel," the boy said, pulling a chair close to her bed with surprising strength. "But names don't matter now. What matters is your story." Eleanor closed her eyes. When was the last time anyone wanted her story? Not the sanitized version in Forbes magazine or the Wall Street Journal. Not the inspiring tale of the first female CEO they taught in business schools. The real story, the one that kept her awake at 3 in the morning for 40 decades. "I was a monster," she said finally. "The worst kind. The kind who chose everything else over the person who needed her most." The memories flooded back like a dam breaking. Eleanor Thompson, at 31, already an executive at Microsoft in 1982, when being a woman in tech meant fighting twice as hard for half the recognition. Brilliant, driven, ruthless, and a single mother to Michael, her 8-year-old son. "Michael was everything," Eleanor continued, tears forming in her eyes. "Smart, sensitive, kind. He loved drawing. Used to leave me little pictures under my pillow. Dinosaurs, spaceships, our house with both of us smalling. I still have them, all of them." Daniel nodded slowly, his small hand reaching for hers. "Tell me about him." "He was diagnosed with leukemia in March of 1983, Eleanor said, the words like glass in her throat. 8 years old. The doctor said he needed aggressive treatment, chemotherapy, possible bone marrow transplant. They said he needed his mother. The memory was vivid, painful as an open wound. Dr. Harrison's office, the smell of coffee and fear. The words that changed everything. "Mrs. Thompson, your son has a 60% chance of survival with aggressive treatment and strong family support. He needs you home. He needs stability." "And I had just been offered the promotion of a lifetime," Eleanor whispered. "Vice President of Product Development.
I would be the highest-ranking woman in the entire company, the youngest VP in Microsoft's history. But it meant traveling constantly. Tokyo, London, New York. It meant 80-hour weeks. It meant leaving him. Daniel said gently. Eleanor nodded, the tears falling freely now. I told myself I was doing it for us, that the money would pay for the best doctors, the best hospitals, that I was securing our future. But that was a lie. I did it because I wanted it. I wanted the power, the recognition, the respect. I wanted to prove that I could beat every man in that building. What happened next? Daniel asked. I hired a full-time nurse, Mrs. Chen, wonderful woman, patient, kind. She moved into our house. She took Michael to his appointments, sat with him during chemo, held his hand when he vomited, read to him at night. She did everything I should have done. The hospital rooms seemed to fade as Eleanor spoke. Daniel remained motionless, his presence an anchor in the storm of her memories.
I traveled 3 weeks out of every month, Eleanor continued. Tokyo for product launches, London for board meetings, New York for investor presentations. I'd call Michael from hotel rooms at midnight my time, morning his time, before school. 5-minute conversations. How are you feeling, baby? Fine, Mom. I love you. Love you too. Then I'd hang up and go back to my spreadsheets. Her voice cracked. Do you know what the worst part is, Daniel? I was good at it. Brilliant even. I launched products that changed the industry. I negotiated deals that made the company millions. I shattered glass ceilings. And while I was doing all that, my son was dying slowly, asking Mrs. Chen why Mommy couldn't come to his doctor's appointments.
Did he understand?
Daniel asked softly. Eleanor shook her head. He was 8, 9, then 10. How could he understand? I told him I was working for us, for our future. I told him I was fighting to make the world better. But what he heard was, "You're not important enough for me to stay." The images kept coming. Eleanor in a power suit, commanding a room full of executives. Eleanor on the cover of Business Week, the new face of tech leadership. Eleanor receiving awards, giving speeches, being celebrated as a pioneer. And Michael losing his hair. Michael thin as a skeleton. Michael asking Mrs. Chen if he could call his mother during chemo. Mrs. Chen saying, "Honey, she's in a meeting. She'll call you back." Michael nodding, understanding even then that business came first. I came home for his 10th birthday, Eleanor said, her voice hollow. I'd been gone for 3 weeks. He was in remission. The treatment was working. The doctors were optimistic. I threw him a party, invited all his friends, rented a bouncy castle, hired a magician, spent thousands of dollars.
But you missed the moments that mattered.
Daniel said, every single one. I missed his first day of 5th grade. I missed parent-teacher conferences. I missed the school play where he was the lead. Mrs. Chen went to all of them. Mrs. Chen was his mother in every way that mattered. Eleanor's breathing was becoming more labored now, but she couldn't stop. The words had been trapped for too long. The cancer came back in November 1985, aggressive, angry, like it was punishing us for thinking we'd won. The doctor said he needed a bone marrow transplant. I was a match, perfect match. She paused, and the silence was deafening. And I scheduled the surgery for December 20th. I had a product launch in Tokyo on December 10th that I absolutely could not miss. Billion-dollar deal, career-defining moment. The surgery was scheduled around my travel schedule, Daniel. My dying son's surgery was scheduled around when it was convenient for me. I never made it to the surgery, Eleanor whispered, the words barely audible. Daniel's grip on her hand tightened, but he said nothing. He knew. He'd always known. December 8th, 1985. I was in Tokyo, staying at the Imperial Hotel.
The product launch was the next day. I'd rehearsed my presentation 50 times. I was going to change the world. Eleanor's voice broke completely. Mrs. Chen called at 3 a.m. Tokyo time. Michael had collapsed. The cancer had spread to his brain. They'd rushed him to Seattle Children's Hospital. He was asking for me, begging for me. Please get my mom. Please, I need my mom. The memory was so vivid, it felt like drowning. I looked at my plane ticket. I could catch a flight that morning, miss the lunch, but make it to Seattle in 16 hours. Or I could do the presentation, fly out that evening, and be there in 24 hours. Daniel's ancient eyes held no judgment, only infinite sadness. I did the presentation. I stood in front of 500 people and I launched that product. I smiled, I shook hands, I celebrated with champagne. And while I was doing that, my son was dying in a hospital room, crying for me. Eleanor's whole body was shaking now. I landed in Seattle 26 hours after Mrs. Chen's call. I ran through the hospital still wearing my business suit. I burst into his room and she couldn't continue for a moment. The grief was too large, too consuming. He was unconscious. Tubes everywhere, machines breathing for him. Mrs. Chen was holding his hand, tears streaming down her face. She looked at me and said, "He waited as long as he could. He kept saying, 'Mommy's coming, Mommy's coming.' But I wasn't coming, not fast enough." "What happened?" Daniel asked, though he already knew. "He died 3 hours later, never woke up. I sat there holding his hand, telling him I was sorry, that I loved him, that I should have been there. But he couldn't hear me. And even if he could have," Eleanor's voice dropped to a whisper, "he'd heard me say I love you 1,000 times over the phone. What he'd never heard me say was, 'You're more important than my career. You're more important than anything.'" The tears were falling so fast now, Eleanor could barely see. "They wanted to name a building after me at Microsoft. I quit the next day, walked away from everything. I spent the next 42 years working with children's hospitals, fundraising for cancer research. I've donated over $50 million. I've helped save thousands of children's lives. But you couldn't save the one that mattered," Daniel said gently. "No. And do you know what the real hell is? I was good at that too. Brilliant at fundraising, at organizing, at building programs. I saved so many children. And every time I did, I thought about Michael. I thought, this could have been you. This should have been you. But I chose a PowerPoint presentation over your life." Daniel stood up, his small frame somehow filling the room with light. His eyes held galaxies, eternities, judgments that weren't his to make, but truths he had to speak. "Eleanor, do you believe some sins are unforgivable?" Eleanor thought about the question, thought about Michael's empty bedroom she'd kept exactly as he left it, thought about the 42 Christmases she'd spent alone, thought about the grandchildren she'd never had, the life her son never got to live. "Yes," she whispered. "What I did, choosing ambition over my dying child, there's no redemption for that. I can save 1 million children and it won't bring him back. It won't change the fact that when he needed me most, I chose a boardroom in Tokyo." "You're right," Daniel said, and his honesty was like a knife. "It won't change anything. Michael died feeling abandoned. That's the truth. You can't undo it. You can't rewrite it. That pain is permanent." Eleanor closed her eyes, ready for death, ready for whatever judgment awaited. "But," Daniel continued, his voice shifting to something softer, "you have one last choice, Eleanor Thompson." Her eyes opened. "What choice? I'm dying. It's over." Daniel smiled. And in that smile was something impossible. Hope.
The choice isn't about redemption. You're right, you don't deserve that. The choice is this. Do you die believing that the 42 years you spent trying to make up for your sin meant nothing? Or do you die knowing that while you couldn't save Michael, you saved others? That while you failed your son, you became a mother to thousands of children who needed you? But Michael is beyond this now, Daniel said. His pain ended 42 years ago. The only person still suffering is you. And here's the truth, Eleanor. Michael wouldn't want you to spend eternity in this hell. Yes, you failed him. Yes, you chose wrong. But the boy I knew, the one who drew pictures of you smiling, that boy loved you. And love doesn't mean you deserved forgiveness. It just means he loved you anyway. Eleanor felt something break inside her, something that had been frozen for 4 decades. How do you know what Michael? She started, then stopped. She looked at Daniel, really looked at him. The gray hoodie, the kind eyes, the small hands that held hers with impossible strength. Oh, God, she whispered. You're... Daniel's smile widened, and for just a moment, Eleanor saw not a boy, but her son, her Michael, 8 years old, holding her hand, telling her it was okay. "Mom," he said, and it was Michael's voice, Michael's face, Michael's love. "I waited for you, just like I always did, and now you're here. Finally, you're here." Eleanor's heart monitor was going crazy, but she didn't care. She grabbed his hands, her son's hands, the angel's hands, and held on like she should have 42 years ago. "Michael, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have been there. I should have chosen you. I know, Mom," Michael said, and in his eyes was forgiveness she didn't deserve, but would receive anyway. "I know, and it hurt. It really hurt. But do you know what I saw after I died?" Eleanor shook her head, crying too hard to speak. "I saw all those children you saved, all those families you kept together, all those mothers who got to hold their kids because you built those programs, raised that money, fought those battles. You couldn't save me, Mom, but you saved them." "It doesn't make up for..." "No," Michael agreed. "It doesn't, but it means something. It means that my death wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning of yours. A painful one, a guilt-filled one, but a meaningful one." The hospital room was filling with light now, soft and golden, like sunrise after the longest night. "Is this my time?" Eleanor whispered, feeling the cancer's grip loosening, the pain fading. Michael nodded. "Yes, Mom, it's your time. You have one last choice. You can come with me now, and we can finally have all those conversations we never got to have. Or... Eleanor's heart, which had been failing, suddenly beat stronger. "Or you can stay. Not for long. Maybe 6 months, maybe a year. Your body is dying, but sometimes miracles happen. Not to erase the past, but to give you time to finish what you started. To say goodbye to the children whose lives you changed. To write the letters you never wrote. To live just a little longer, not as penance, but as purpose." Eleanor looked at her son, her angel, her judge, her forgiveness, and made her choice. Can I have both? Can I have time to finish, and then can I still come find you?" Michael smiled, and it was the smile from all those drawings under her pillow, preserved for 42 years. "I'll be waiting, Mom, just like always. But this time, when you come, you won't be late." The doctors called it a miracle. Eleanor Thompson's cancer, which had been terminal, suddenly went into aggressive remission. They had no explanation. It defied every medical principle. Eleanor didn't question it. She had 11 months.
She spent them writing letters to every family she'd helped. She spent them teaching her fundraising methods to others so the work would continue. She spent them finally talking about Michael, not as a ghost haunting her, but as the son she'd loved and failed and honored in the only way she knew how. On her last day, exactly 11 months after her conversation with the boy in the hospital room, Eleanor Thompson died peacefully in her sleep. On her nightstand was a drawing she'd saved for 42 years, a stick figure mother and son, holding hands, both smiling. And when she opened her eyes and whatever came next, there he was, Michael, 8 years old forever, holding out his hand. "Ready, Mom?" Eleanor took his hand. "I'm ready, baby. Finally, I'm ready." Because some choices can never be undone. But some love is stronger than the worst mistakes. And sometimes the last choice is the one that matters most.
Success means nothing if you lose the people who matter. Share this story if you've ever chosen wrong and spent years trying to make it right. And remember, it's never too late to choose love, even if it's just one last time.